I'm Jason. The world is yours, and today we have a story about Brendan Schaub questions the sustainability of Francis Ngannou's game-changing PFL contract. Uh, Francis Ngannou is making waves in the MMA world like never before. Do we have to go into? Okay, let's just go into this part. Francis Ngannou achieved his goal signing with the PFL as a fighter and brand ambassador, leading the new PFL Africa Department of Promotion as chairman and minority equity owner. Francis Ngannou's new deal is lucrative in more ways than one, providing the fear knockout artist with a reported high seven-figure payout for his fights, among numerous other benefits. As someone who has always been outspoken about fighters getting what they deserve, Brendan Schaub couldn't be happier for the Cameroon native. However, the former UFC heavyweight contender, Brendan Schaub turned podcaster, raises concerns about history repeating itself. It's a long time coming, Schaub said on his Instagram page. Shout out to Francis Ngannou. He said what he was going to do. He set out to what he set out to what he was going to do. He got a lot of hate, a lot of pushback. His agent, Martin or Markel, and him got it done. Don't forget Markel, he was a big advocate in getting Francis to kind of go on this path that hasn't been done. What path hasn't been done? Shout out to them, Francis, Markel, the PFL, for taking a chance on Francis. All of its all, it's all good. Okay, biggest contract guarantees his opponent $2 million. He gets a portion of the gate, pay-per-view percentage, guaranteed money. It's completely game-changing for the sport of MMA. It's huge. It's massive. This is all good. Okay, that doesn't sound negative at all. Okay, here comes the negative part, I guess. My question is not with Francis. We know Francis got a great deal, so hats off to Francis. He continued. The question is it great for the PFL? History would say no. The leagues that throw all this money at the fighters' affliction, other leagues, they're not around anymore. I don't know if you can sustain a business model giving Francis all of this money, all this power. I don't know if it's capable. I hope it is. I hope it works out. It would change the game forever. As part of Francis Ngannou contract, he'll be exclusive to PFL upcoming pay-per-view super fight events as opposed to the foundational seasonal tournament format. The promotion was and still is expected to launch its pay-per-view events in 2023, starting for $50 on ESPN Plus. Isn't the UFC on ESPN? How crazy is that? Starting for $50 on ESPN Plus, with a goal of two events per year, two pay-per-views per year. That's it. Originally, the plan was to have four events, one each quarter, according to the founder, Don Davis, in March of 2022. Things have changed in recent months, and other super fight pay-per-view exclusive fighters like Kayla Harrison are wishing and hoping that there'll be at least one to close out 2023. Oh my goodness. With the current season underway, Schaub would like to see Ngannou get involved and back in action earlier than his estimated time frame. The Predator most recently fought in January 2022, where he defended his UFC title, unanimous decision victory over Cyril Gane, knee surgery, yada, yada, yada. Also, something to note is what Brendan Schaub said. He says he won't fight until 2024, as Ngannou said. PFL is a tournament-style platform. That's their business model. It's a tournament. So Francis is going to skip the tournament and go against heavyweight standards, and they're saying there's going to be a tournament and the winner fights Francis. I'd rather see Francis in the... I kind of agree. Like, hold on. What's the point of the tournament? Like, if you have Francis, it seems like Francis... Not that he already won, but it's like... How is Francis at the end of the line of the tournament already? That doesn't make any sense. And then the most important question is, who is Francis gonna fight? Name 5 PF. I would say name 5 PFL fighters. Go. I can't name them either, right? So they're gonna have to make PFL an attractive kind of secondary option outside of the UFC, which they've done because now you're guaranteeing him these huge paydays. I think you're going to see some free agents come over to the PFL for that guarantee. Yeah, I mean, that's true. For the guaranteed payday of $2 million that Francis said in the contract. My question again is name heavyweights. Who is going to be free agent soon that you would pay to watch Francis fight on pay-per-view? Is this model sustainable for the PFL? Let's find out. Yeah, who knows what's going on with the PFL? I mean, their meal ticket, their biggest name, Kayla Harrison. She was like, their number one fighter, their biggest fighter, the biggest name fighter, but she lost in her last fight, right? And her market has fell. Francis Ngannou, we haven't seen him fight since last year. It was a unanimous decision victory over Cyril Gane. I don't know how much that pay-per-view sold, but I don't think it was breaking like pay-per-view records where even the UFC would have had trouble paying, Francis Ngannou high single seven-digit figures for that fight. Like what, $7-8 million, right? For the fight versus Ngannou. I mean, maybe, I'm pretty sure the UFC can afford it. They could. But could they justify paying Francis Ngannou $7-8 million and Cyril Gane $2 million? The UFC, could they justify that for the pay-per-view numbers that event did? I don't think so, right? And with the PFL never having any pay-per-views, the average person, I don't think, has ever seen any PFL fights. No one, and I mean no one, can name 5 PFL fighters. I can't say no one. I mean, I'm an MMA casual, so I can't name 5 PFL fighters. But I mean, like, so how can a PFL that's never had a pay-per-view, right? Their meal ticket, Kayla Harrison lost her last fight, right? Francis Ngannou, he's a great fighter. Is he the highest selling fighter in the UFC? No, right? Is he gonna bring over that much casual fans, MMA fans, UFC fans to the PFL for a pay-per-view that the PFL has never held? I don't know. This could be a disaster in the making. And the question is, who is it going to be a disaster for? Is it going to be a disaster for is it going to be a disaster for PFL, or is it going to be a disaster for Francis? Let's say Francis fights someone in the PFL and he loses. Like, we've seen UFC fighters go to Bellator and lose. We've seen UFC fighters go to PFL and lose. Anthony Pettis, right? Anthony Pettis is in the PFL. Roy McDonald, I believe Roy McDonald lost almost all of his fights in the PFL. So a lot of people have this idea that UFC fighters are, unbeatable. They're the greatest fighters, and that's why they're in the UFC. But we've seen fighters, when they leave the UFC, obviously, when the UFC doesn't re-sign them, they're probably on the decline in their career, right? But we've seen UFC fighters go to other organizations and lose. So if Francis Ngannou gets this high 7-figure deal for his first pay-per-view, let's say he goes in and he loses, right? Let's say the second fight he loses, right? That's my question. What happens if he loses, right? I mean, if he wins, it's going to be a great fight, but who is he going to fight? I kind of agree with Brendan that, I don't think it's going to be that difficult to find anyone in the in the heavyweight division that would want to fight Francis Ngannou for $2 million. Right? I'm pretty sure there's a lot of heavyweights out there whose contract is up that would be willing to fight Francis Ngannou. So I don't think finding an opponent is going to be hard for Francis Ngannou. My only question is, who's that opponent going to be? Because I can't name any I can't name any PFL heavyweight fighters. But let me know your opinion of this story. Who is Francis Ngannou going to fight in the PFL is my question. I'm Jason. The world is yours. Today we had a story about Brendan Schaub. Brings up some pretty good questions and questioning the sustainability of Francis' game-changing PFL contract. Hit the like button. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the $1 donation button. And please tune in to the next video on this channel. Thanks a million for watching.